Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Sean Cole, and today we're reviewing the CSR Elite pedals. And you'd think I had 3 different pedal sets here in front of me. These are actually all different variations of the CSR Elite pedals. They're actually the same pedals, just sort of different mounting variations that I've used here. The important thing about the CSR Elite pedals is that they are mostly made from aluminum compared to the plastic parts of the CSR pedals. The CSR Elite pedals are standalone pedals, so they plug directly into the PC and will give you 10-bit resolution. They can also be plugged directly into any Fanatec wheel and work on the PS3 and Xbox. Now, one giant difference between the Elite pedals and the CSR pedals is the fact that the Elites use a load cell brake, and that is a huge difference. And for those of you who don't know, it's the difference between a load cell and a potentiometer. Now, a load cell is actually a piece of metal that is calibrated to measure resistance or the pressure that is being put upon it. Many high-end scales use this type of technology for measuring. This is very different from a standard pedal that uses a potentiometer. When you move a potentiometer, you're measuring distance traveled, and your brain must therefore measure how far to push the pedal. That works fine, but in an emergency situation, I find that I push the pedals too far and lock up the brakes often. When using a load cell, what is being measured is the pressure. This means your brain must remember how hard to press on the pedal instead of how far. This tends to be a much easier process on the brain and makes for much more realistic braking feel. Now, another feature that's cool about the Elite pedals is that they're also modular. I can move each pedal left and right, so you have a little bit of play. So you can actually move the brake pedal closer to the clutch or closer to the gas, depending on whether you're a left foot braker or heel tower or what kind of style you have. Another adjustment you can make on the Elite pedals is the pedal faces. On the brake and clutch pedal, you can move them up and down. You have a couple of different choices there as well. Another adjustment that you can do on the Elite pedals is adjust the spring tension and travel of all 3 pedals independently, which is a nice feature as well. So lots of adjustment on these pedals. And as you can see, I have different mounting solutions. This is another great thing about these. This one, I have the full inversion kit. I've inverted all 3 pedals, still uses the same pedal base, works out really nice. My favorite combo is actually inverting the clutch and the brake and leaving the gas pedal on the floor. I found it just kind of left things a little more open, kind of looked cool and unique. Now, another thing that I've mentioned is that they are so modular that you can actually remove them from the pedal base and mount them into any rig that you want. And that makes them a pretty special set of pedals. So now let's move on to the pros and cons, and let's start off with the cons. The first one, and this is kind of getting nitpicky and it's slight, but if you look, there's just a little bit of side-to-side play on some of the pedals. And for me, when you get into a $150 pedal set, we're starting to spend some real money on them, and I expect some fine movement. And to see that kind of play, it also raised my concern, will it get worse over time? Kind of hard to tell. Another con is that the base is very large. You can see it's got a lot of length to it, and that's going to make it a little bit difficult to mount it into some rigs. So that's something to take into consideration. But you always have the ability to take them off and mount them directly to your rig. So if it is, you probably have an answer that you can get around to anyway. Now, my last con is that at this price, they're just not as robust as the Club Sport pedals. So if you're considering this between the Club Sport, I don't think there's any comparing how hardy these are to the comparison of the Club Sport pedals, which have metal that might be this thick. So they're a little wimpy compared to the Club Sport in that area. Now let's move on to the pros. And the first one is so easy, and that is I cannot think of a less expensive load cell brake set anywhere in the world. And you've heard us talk about it on the show all the time. A load cell is going to change braking for you. It's just, I mentioned, it's so much easier to use pressure versus distance, and that is a big difference. Another pro is that this is truly a multi-platform pedal set. So when using it with a Fanatec wheel, you're going to be able to use it on the Xbox, on the PlayStation, and on the PC, and you're not going to have to do anything to switch from them. Another pro is the great braking feel. So using that pressure instead of distance, it allows a lot more modulation of the pedal. It allows me to give a little brake and pull off and kind of do my own ABS pressure without being concerned of pressing too far. Another pro is the modular design, being able to mount them to any rig. I mean, I could have inverted these myself on my rig if I had that type of mount. Anything you can come up with, you're going to be able to bolt these in, and that works out real well. Another pro is that for $50, having the inversion kit. Not everybody wants to do it the do-it-yourself way. Some people just want to bolt it together and have inverted pedals, and it's a totally different feel. So another pro, and I've mentioned it, is that they're highly adjustable. I mean, you're talking spring rate, travel, angle, distant, so many adjustments, including how stiff do you want this brake. I mean, for me, that's a whole other pro in its own. Just having a very stiff brake prevents me from over braking, prevents me from locking up the wheels, and that's a big deal in sim racing. So you've probably heard it by my tone of voice. I do like these pedals quite a bit, and therefore on the rev scale, I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10. Now when it comes to using these pedals, you know, the first thing that we thought about here in the shop, what about these compared to the Club Sports? I have for a long time been using Club Sports and I love them. Would I pick these over the Club Sports? And you know, you're looking at $149 or $200. And in my case, I like the inversion kit, so it might be $200 versus $200. And to be perfectly honest with you, there are some things that I prefer about this pedal set. Some of the delicate movement works easy. They're very quiet pedals, and that's nice, but they're just not as hardy, they're just not as robust. So it'll really come down to your preferences and what you're looking for in pedals, and $50 might be enough to make a difference for you. Go to www.fanatec.de and you can check them out for yourself. Also, they do have a comparison chart there, so if you want to see the features of the CSR Elites or the CSR pedals or the Club Sport pedals, you can kind of look at all the differences and sort of make a good decision for yourself. For some people, it might come down to the $50 difference. For some people, it might come down to compatibility. Who knows? For me, all of them are really good choices, and it really might come down to what system you're using them on. So I hope this helps you make decisions on brakes. For me, I can't reiterate enough how important the braking is, especially when it comes to choosing a pedal set, and that's what makes these such a pleasure to review. So I hope this helps you out. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.
Openwheeler is not just another racing seat. It's made with the input of real racing fans who know the mechanics of racing. The Openwheeler can be used by almost anybody, from a small child to a fully grown adult. Just like the seat in a real car, Openwheeler has a wide range of adjustable positions, just like a real car, including the angle of the seat up and back, and the pedal distance and wheel height. Openwheeler is super light and it only weighs about 50 pounds, and it's really easy to move around the house with its built-in wheels, and it folds down for easy storage.
This tends to be a much easier process, and